Hey everybody, I am Ben Yee. I'm the Secretary of the Manhattan Democratic Party and State Committee Man for the 66th Assembly District in Manhattan, which means I just represent this area to the Democratic Party at the state level. And I'm here with Alyssa Stein.
I'm a soon-to-be county committee member in Manhattan after the primary that's happening on September 12th, which is Tuesday.
Yes, and she's a constituent in my district and has been to one of my real politics.
I've been to
all of my real
workshops, all of them.
Real politics, real organizing 101s, and she had this great idea to do some follow-up stuff because I guess folks still have questions about how stuff works.
I still have so many questions about how
so many questions,
and I'm sure that there are other people out there who do as well.
And we've got this awesome primary coming up on Tuesday, the 12th. So we figured we'd get started on that. So I guess this is Real Politics, the TV show.
Exactly. So we're going to start off with a really super simple question, Ben.
Okay.
What is a primary?
What is a primary? A primary is an internal party election. So we all know about general elections where you show up and you vote for president or mayor or governor, and there's usually a Democrat and a Republican running. Well, before that, you have a primary election, which determines which Democrat will be running and which Republican will be running, and if there are any other parties, who will be representing them as well. So, in short, primary election, internal election to a political party which determines its representation in a general election.
Okay, so
also, there's one other thing it does.
Yes.
Which is, because it's an internal party election, that's also where the party decides its own leadership. So who's running the Democratic Party? People elected in the primary to do that job. Same thing with the Republican Party, Green Party, Working Families, however you want to, whichever party you're a member of.
So why is it so important to vote in a primary? I never have, this is my first time, but in all Ben's workshops, he always says it's super important, it's more important to vote in a primary than a general election.
Oh, well, certainly in this case it is. In most cases it's more important to, no, you got to vote in both. You got to vote in both. I don't want to say one's more important than the other, but they're both super important. And in New York City in particular, basically Democrats win all of our elections in the city. And you know, you can look this up online. City Council, there's 51 members, there's 3 Republicans. The primary is the whole thing. If you vote in the primary and you send a Democrat to the general election, they're basically guaranteed to win.
So you want to be sending the Democrat that you want.
Exactly. That's where the real choice is.
Got it.
For example, in 2013, when Bill de Blasio was first elected, he ran against 6 different Democrats.
I remember.
And there was a real choice to be had. In 2017, we all basically expect him to win, and again, the election will be about the primary, right? Okay,
so now that we know what a primary is, who can vote in a primary?
So New York is what we call we have closed primaries. So in other states they have these things called open primaries. In New York, we have closed primaries, which means if you are not a member of a political party, you cannot vote in the primary. So in order to vote in a primary, you need to be eligible to vote, registered to vote, and registered as a party member. So you have to have checked off Democrat or Republican or Working Families or Green Party when you registered. And if you didn't, you have to go and change your party affiliation to participate.
So if you're an independent and you want to vote in the Democratic Party, or the Democratic primary, can you?
No, you cannot.
Okay.
Certainly not in this state, and it's a real problem. It's very disenfranchising to a lot of folks.
I can imagine, frustrating.
Yeah, who didn't want to, do a party affiliation when they signed up to vote, but you can tell honestly that this is a very important thing because in New York State we make it very difficult for people to change their party affiliation.
Once you're it, you're it.
Mostly. Right. Well, the thing is, if you want to change your party affiliation, so if you are registering to vote for the first time, it's fine. They process that, and you can basically register to vote and participate in the next primary election. But if you're changing your registration, you have to do it months and months in advance. In reality, your change of party registration won't take effect until after the next general election.
Wow.
The reason for this is so that you don't have a bunch of new people coming in and messing up the next election.
And flipping.
Yeah, messing up. I mean, participating in changing outcomes. Right? They want.
Which is actually a good thing to participate and change outcomes, but you have to really plan your game ahead.
In this state, yes.
You want to change, you have to plan in advance. Okay, so now that you know who can, what a primary is, who can vote in a primary, how do you find out where to vote, what your
Right.
election district is, where do you go to cast your vote? Like, how do you get all that information?
Great question, super important. I don't have the link off the top of my head, so I'll pop it in the bottom here or in the description section. But there's a fantastic website. If you just look up Poll Locator NYC, you punch that into Google or any search engine, you'll get the NYC Poll Locator, which is run by the Board of Elections, and it's just a search bar, and you pop in your address, and whether you spell it right or not, it'll give you options.
Oh, great.
Right? So you can just...
You can be on your phone and you'll have some mistyping things. And
That's
still
right,
something will
exactly.
show
And
up.
it'll give you all the addresses that match whatever garbled thing you put in there. You pick that one, and it gives you back all of your districts, your council district, your Senate district, your assembly district, and your election district.
Okay.
And the election district is actually how we organize voting. So here's a little pro tip. You guys can have this one. I use it all the time. If you know which assembly district you live in and which election district you live in, when you go to vote, there's occasionally like a long line. That line is just for the people who are working there to tell you which table to go to get your ballot.
I've stood on that line many times.
Yes, certainly. I had to do it last time. It was annoying. Well, I didn't have to do it. Sorry, I took video of other people doing it,
Assume
and
that
it was
you
annoying
know-
for them.
You would know which table to go to.
I had better.
Yes.
But essentially, those tables are done by election district. So if you know your assembly district and your election district, you can skip the line and just walk to the right table.
Super pro tip.
Super pro tip. You
From
can be like
Benny.
a real
Seasoned voter.
citizen. Yes, seasoned voter.
I like seasoned voter better.
Sure.
Okay, great. So now people know what a primary is, know where to go to get information about the primary. What about who we're voting for? How do you find out information about who you're voting for?
Hair's going crazy. It's windy up here. Ah, sorry.
Lovely.
Something about what now?
Something.
Who is
about-
voting? Where do you go to find out information
Wait,
about
so there are
the
candidates.
people for whom you're
Right,
voting?
There are candidates, and a lot of these are people that you haven't really heard of before. It's not like De Blasio or Tish James or
Right.
Scott Stringer. It's sort of smaller roles and
Absolutely.
smaller jobs. So how do you find out information about who these candidates are and what they stand for?
Well, the Campaign Finance Board of New York City actually has a fantastic website, and they do an amazing job basically aggregating all of that information. So if you go to nycvotes.com, or no, sorry, votenyc.com, you'll get their website, and you can basically look up your district and find out all the candidates who are running to represent it at every level. And there'll be bios there, and then you can follow, if you're interested, you can follow those profiles back to more information about candidates. What I will say, though, is that's just for city elections. In Manhattan, we're electing our county party leadership this year in the primary. So I had mentioned before that we elect the leadership of the Democratic and Republican parties in the primaries. We're doing that in Manhattan this year. Information for those people will not be on that website.
Where do
So
you go for that then?
honestly, nowhere. Most party elections are very poorly advertised. The candidates have small budgets, so they're not doing a lot of advertising themselves.
That was going to be my last question. How come when a primary is happening in 2 days on Tuesday the 12th, I know so little about the fact that it's even happening or the people who are running?
Right. So for the city offices and for the primary in general, the city is really supposed to be getting the word out about that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's certainly not their main function. There's trains to fix.
Other things going on.
So the amount of money that they spend on it isn't really enough to reach everybody. It's on New York 1. There's ads in the subways, but they're not going door to door telling people there's a primary. That's usually up to candidates. Those are the folks who are spending money to get the word out so that people will vote for them.
Having people out on the street handing out cards.
That's right.
I've seen a whole bunch of them in the past few days.
Absolutely correct. But for that targeted sort of, what candidates do is they target voters who they think will vote for them. So if you haven't participated in a primary before, or they don't think that you're likely to vote for them, they're probably not trying to communicate with you at all, which means that our system does a particularly shoddy job of reaching out to new voters. because primary turnout is so low. In 2013, only 9% of Democrats turned out to the polls.
That's a shocking number.
It's tiny. It's 282,000 in a city of like maybe 7 million voters. That's who decided Bill de Blasio would be mayor. 282,000 people.
All I can say is wow.
It's
And
intense.
shame. That's terrible.
Yes. But so basically every candidate is competing in a pool that's about 9% of the actual number of
Right.
voters.
So nobody's really reaching out to grow the pool.
Right.
They're just targeting their base.
Exactly. They're trying to target these small,
Right.
very, very small groups that are going to turn very, very small elections. And so there's just not a lot of effort put into telling everybody that there's an election coming up.
Well, that's ending this on a somewhat sad note, because I would hope that more
Yeah,
people would come out and vote. But hopefully people who were going to go out and vote will see this.
Yes.
And then we will be the ones to get new voters to the polls.
I mean, there's people like us out there doing this sort of stuff
Yes.
to encourage folks to vote. And so all I can say, I guess, is there is a primary. It's Tuesday, September 12th. Please go vote. It's incredibly important. It's every bit as important as the general election, which will be happening in November.
And your vote matters. When so few people are voting, your vote is going to have even more of an impact.
Oh yes, I've seen general elections won by 1 to 3 votes. Real things for like
Wow.
state senate and what have you.
Well, then there's Al Gore.
And then there's Al
Like
Gore.
the 600 plus
Right.
votes that determine that. So yeah, every vote matters.
Every vote matters, and numbers like that are even more common in primaries. Even more common in
Well,
primaries.
I'll be at the polls, not at 7 when they open, but sometime that day.
Yes, and so everybody should show up. If there is a line, remember, just look up your ADED. You can do it on your phone from the poll locator website and just skip the line. But I suspect with 9% turnout in 2013,
It's not going to be that busy.
we're not
But
looking
one
at
can
long
hope.
lines.
All right, stay tuned for another episode. We'll be back.
In the future. See you later.
Bye.